Hello, and welcome to part two of the five-part series on co-teaching. I'm Dr. Melanie Lemoyne, and I will be hosting the sessions. We started with an introduction and definitions of co-teaching, and now we're going to start to take a look at the different co-teaching models. As we go through the sessions, we will wrap up with co-planning and how to best identify which models to use under which circumstances. Before we get started, I want to cover People First Language again and help us all to understand that the words we use to describe people do in fact have an impact on the way that we see them. And this is very important for us as educators because the way that we see people, not consciously, but it does impact the expectations we have for those people. And as educators, it's important for us to have high expectations for all of our students, including students with disabilities. So People First Language forces us to move away from the focus being on a disability and helping us to see the person for who they are. The disability is just one part of who this person is. So my task for you is to think about your language and ask yourself, do I use some of these words? Do I say handicapped? Do I say disabled person? And if so, I encourage you to shift your language and start thinking about the person first. So she's a fourth grader who happens to have a learning disability. He's a sixth grader who loves football. He also has autism. Thinking about that shift is important. I encourage you to make the change for yourself and also to listen to your peers. When you all are planning and talking and sharing ideas, encourage them to shift the focus as well. So, content map. This gives us an idea of where we've been and then, of course, where we're going. So hopefully you have watched part one, which covered the introduction and definition of co-teaching that we'll be using for these sessions. And today we are now going to look at our first set of co-teaching models. And I want to be clear that these are not, the models are not set up in a way that is hierarchical, meaning one's better than the other. There's reason why we started with one teach, one observe, and one teach, one assist, and we'll get to that in a few slides. Just as a reminder, we're using the definition of Dr. Friend and Cook to focus our work. And it is important to remember that co-teaching, that last bullet, is two or more professionals jointly delivering meaningful instruction to a diverse group of students in a single physical space. And I'm emphasizing that because a lot of us do have teaching partners. We love our fourth grade teacher across the hall and we do everything together and we share ideas and we plan together. If you're working in two separate classrooms, you're not co-teaching. So remember, this is two professionals in one single space. And why are collaborative teaching models important? This slide focuses on IDEA. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act does require students with disabilities have access to, but also make progress in the general education curriculum. So that means the same fourth grade class that everybody else is in. And so if we're going to meet the needs of diverse students, it makes sense for us to have two professionals in there to get the job done. But my point is, it's not always about kids with disabilities. Our classrooms are growing more diverse by the day, which is a great thing. Kids are coming to us with all kinds of needs. Some are identified, some are not. So we still need to meet the needs of all those kids, and we're going to do that best when we've got two professionals in the room. So we'll start with one teach, one observe. And as I had made the statement earlier that we didn't lay these out in any sort of hierarchical manner, like one is better than the other. We're focusing this first session though on one teach, one observe and one teach, one assist because for the situation many of you all are in as a resident teacher and a mentor teacher, these two models are going to be the ones you're probably going to work on the most because we're new and we're learning. This is the part of the resident experience. When we start to get into parallel teaching and team teaching, that takes a lot of experience. They're not better because, again, and I'll get to this, we want to choose our models based on our learning goals. But they are a little more complex, they are a little more nuanced, and it does take more experience, and you'll get there. We all will get there. So for now, one teach, one observe. In a situation like this, one teacher has the instructional responsibility, while the other teacher is focusing on observation. So, for example, one teacher may be teaching the class and the other teacher is observing to check for understanding with students. What's really important with this model is that the observation has to be specific. So it's going to be important for you resident teachers and mentor teachers to come up with what that observation is going to look like. What are you looking for? We can't just say, all right, I'm going to teach, and you just sort of look around and see what you see. That's not going to be very effective. We need to be specific. You're observing for behavior issues for this student, this specific behavior. You're checking for, observing for, like I said, levels of understanding and looking out to see if students are responding in terms of formative assessments. Are you seeing that there's some confusion? It just needs to be really clear what you are observing. And it has to be an active role, okay? Observation doesn't just mean sort of standing in the back looking around. You may be collecting data. You may be doing a behavior tally or an on-task analysis. There's all kinds of things, but the observation has to be a focused activity. When would this happen? Well, this could be that the mentor teacher is teaching and the job of the resident is to work on checking for understanding, and it could be a learning opportunity to really get to understand what to do when students do not understand the content. It could be learning more of a behavior intervention, as I had mentioned, an on-task analysis or things like that. In the other direction, it could be that the resident teacher is the one teaching and the mentor teacher is doing the observation. And it could be that when we're done, the mentor teacher provides feedback to the resident teacher about what they observed during that lesson. What's key to co-teaching models is the learning objective. What is the learning objective of the lesson? So we want to steer very clear from saying, let's do one teach, one observe because we like it. That's not why we choose a model. We choose a model based on what the learning objective is. And this might be an opportunity where we're learning new content and we know students are going to have some challenge. This is going to be a challenge for some students. So it might be a good opportunity for the resident teacher to introduce the content, and then the mentor teacher collects a lot of data in terms of what they're seeing with how the kids are responding. We use that data, we plan, and then that's how we inform our next lesson. We mentioned earlier in the sessions that you all are going to be you're going to have to keep data. You're going to have to keep up-to-date records. So your co-teaching journal is very important, and you want to make sure that you are keeping record of what model you're using and when and why. So you can see here, this is a screenshot of what your co-teaching journal looks like. Whenever you would be doing one teach, one observe as the resident or the teacher candidate doing the teaching, that is where you would identify that model. Similar to one teach, one observe is one teach, one assist. It's an extension of one teach, one observe, but the person who is doing the observing or the assisting actually becomes a little more involved in the lesson. Again, we're still having the primary teacher giving with the responsibility of instruction. The one who is assisting may actually be working one-on-one with a student. That might be a situation where you would see leaning over and double checking. Are you understanding what we're doing? Why did you mark that answer? Can I clarify that for you? There also may be an opportunity where the one assisting may interrupt some of the instruction to say, we've got a few kids here who are having trouble. Miss So-and-so, can we talk through this a little more and, reteach, or let's go over this again? Meaning that you're assisting students, but you're also assisting the teaching teacher when they need to maybe change course, or if students are having difficulties. These are not, better than any other model. They're important for you right now, especially as we are moving through residency, that we start here. It's a good opportunity to support, for the mentor teacher to provide support to the resident teacher, and also for the resident teacher candidates to gain information as they observe and assist. And again, just to follow up the co-teaching journal and the importance of keeping good records, there in that second line, that is one teach, one assist. So anytime that you would use this model, it would be indicated there. Thank you very much for joining us for part 2, and I hope to see you all in part 3.